Hello and welcome to the Murder Media podcast, where we analyse and overthink true crime. You can follow the project over on Instagram at murdermedia81 and also on Facebook, and you can email me directly at murdermedia81@gmail.com. This week I have the absolute pleasure of being joined by my best mate, Laura, who is a fan of all things true crime, and we're going to have a chat about some questions, some talking points, and just see where we get to. So Laura, hello, how are you doing?
I'm good, thanks, Stels. How are you?
I'm all right. I am mortified at doing this in front of another person. But here we are. I thought it was awkward enough at home in my office talking to a pair of curtains. But yeah, this is... I want to rip my face off right now with cringe. Anyway, it's serious and it's a work thing. Let's talk about this stuff. So you know about the project, so you know what I'm doing. I'm discussing, analyse all kinds of true crime content across all media platforms. And while I'm not doing fan studies, I am interested in how people are consuming true crime, particularly as it's changed quite dramatically over the last 10 years. And we'll get to that point in a bit. So to just get us talking, really, to get us started, I first would ask you, where did your love of true crime start? Maybe love is a strong word. When did you start engaging with true crime? Do you remember what you first watched or what you first read, or how far back does this nonsense go for you?
That's a good question. I think this is adjacent but not relevant, and I think that I probably sort of had a love of horror from being quite young, and I quite like being scared. And I think that I started to obsess about ghosts and poltergeists when I was like a teenager, and I definitely thought I was going to be like possessed. I was obsessed that was going to happen to me. So I definitely got into like reading, in speech marks, true stories of like hauntings and so on. I'm just creeping myself out with that. And then I remember I think it was a friend of my mum had this book. I was like, oh God, what's that about? And I picked it up off the shelf, and it was called The Perfect Victim. I don't know if you've read that, but it's like, I literally have not read it since I was about 10, or 12, and maybe not even, maybe like 10 or 11. And like, she is kidnapped, and she's the perfect victim because she was alone when they took her, and also the couple that did it, she was abused by the man, and she wanted a break from the abuse, and so they plotted together to take a girl off the street, but they did it as a family, so they had their children in the car as well, so they took her.
What?
Yes, that's how they got her in. Like, I think she was hitching or whatever, trying to go somewhere. Again, vague, rusty on the details there, but he was into like sadistic sex stuff and pain and so on, and the wife had but wasn't into it and had enough anyway. It was way too extreme for her, and so for her it was like it was the only answer, for her and for them. And they kept her, I think, under their marital bed. I think there was a box under the bed, and like she had to live in this box.
What?
Yeah, and then but she was there for years, like a decade or something. Again, please forgive the details, but it got to the point where she was the children's nanny. So I don't know if she had kids, the abducted kid, but there were children in the house. They might have been hers and the wife's, I don't remember, but she would have to take them to school and so on. But because they'd manipulated her so much, she was so young when it happened to her, she believed that there was this organisation, and that if she ever got out, they would get her parents or her family or whatever. So I remember reading that and just being like, whoa, this is mental. And then started to read other books. That's definitely how I got into it, really. I think when in the 80s, 90s, I don't remember there being a lot of true crime. Maybe there was, but I was definitely, in terms of film, I loved horror. And it was all those, what were those movies as well? This is again a true thing, not necessarily a crime thing, but those movies that used to be like American, and they were always about true stories, like somebody, My Sister's Keeper or something, where they gave up all their organs for their sister, but he's been to all that stuff as well. But yeah, definitely, I reckon it wasn't until I probably went off it for a bit, and then I've got back into it in the last sort of 10 years, maybe, I would say.
Yeah. It's interesting that you mentioned horror, because there's a lot of overlap. Obviously, there's horror films that take inspiration from real things. So, Texas Chainsaw Massacre is based on Ed Gein, and so's Buffalo Bill in Silence of the Lambs, and there's lots of crossover there. True crime, when it's in visual form, film or documentary or dramatisation on telly, particularly American ones, do lean into a lot of horror imagery. And, you know, it's a lot got, like the rest of telly, it's got more gory. Anyway, I was going to ask you that question, you know, where did it all start? And I was trying to think about where did it start for me? And I really struggled to go back to when I first started getting into it, because I know that I left TV horror alone because I was sick to death of it. And I just realised that I was watching more documentaries and whatnot. And I was like, oh, that's quite interesting to talk about. But I don't remember what was going on before. I think I must have read something, like you said, like late 80s, early 90s, and then watched, because we had, you know, those big, ugly white satellite dishes. We had one of them on the front of the house, so we got loads of American channels in like the late 80s, early 90s. So I remember watching the odd episode of things like Dateline, which are just really trashy is the only word I can think of, and it's always, you know, the typical one where it's like it shows the family in a photograph and then it goes black and white because something terrible has happened, and you've got all this like big dramatic music. So I remember watching them. It's crystallised in the last 10 years or so, because I think there's just more media, so there's more of everything around. But certainly the true crime podcast is a new thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
for sure. So the next question then, and the next area to talk about is, are there any kinds of true crime that you don't engage with, and why? Like, what's the sort of stuff that you're not bothered about, or you wouldn't watch for whatever reason?
I think there's a few things that I have a negative reaction to. I think that some stuff around children cases I don't like. So there's that one on Netflix, the trial of such and such a body. I can't remember what this poor little boy's name is, but you know, like that sort of thing. I'm like, I think also I've worked in child protection and like safeguarding a lot, and I think when something's just a bit close to the bone and it feels like it's so tangible, like it's not a Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it's not something insane, I just think that's just a bit too real, close for comfort. So stuff with kids I don't really like. There are some cases where I feel a bit, I don't know, like affronted by I have the same reaction to that documentaries and stuff as well, you know. I'm like, leave that person alone, you know. Even if it's like Amy Winehouse movie, I'm like, you know, whatever, I'm like, just leave her be, for God's sake.
She was tormented enough.
Yes, so there are some things that I just personally have a bit of a beef with for whatever reason. I can't even necessarily explain it, just it might irritate me for whatever reason. But the other thing that I can't abide is when there's no bloody ending and like when it's unsolved mysteries. No thanks. Like, and I hate it when you start to listen to something because you're like, oh, this sounds good, then you get to the end and they don't know, and you're like,
why am I here then?
Why have you done this to
why did you even start talking if you can't tell me the end?
Which I think also links back to the first question about like what interested me about it, or how did it start. And I think as well, I've just always been kind of fascinated by scary things, but also how mad people are. So like,
people are fucking nuts.
They're fucking mental. Like, so I did psychology for A level and my first degree that I dropped out of. But like, there's that obsession of like not obsession, but understanding how very mad people are and what their motivations are. So I think when you get a story and it's unsolved, it doesn't answer any of that, and I think that's what I'm interested in. I'm really interested in the sort of like, how did you get from being a baby, like let's say a blank canvas, to this? What happened in between? So I think when that part of the story is missing as well, it's so incomplete for me. I'm like, then you're just looking at all these horrific things that sort of happened to someone, and it just doesn't resolve it for me.
The what's she called? I should know this. Was it Trish Wood who directed For a Killer? Either she said it or Liz Kendall said it, or maybe somebody else said it. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But someone said it, and it was dead good. They said they don't like it when the victims are just reduced to this one moment in their life, and they're only known to us because of what somebody else did to them, whereas actually they had full, round, rich lives that we don't necessarily hear about. And you know, there's broader points, like if you ask anyone on the street, if you go outside on the street and you say, can you name me a serial killer, they'll probably say Jeffrey Dahmer or Ted Bundy, and they'll say Charles Manson as well, and they'll be wrong in
Harold
saying
Shipman,
that. Yeah.
we're Manx, you're going to get a bit of Shipman in there.
Yeah, so they'll say that, and then it's like, well, can you name anyone that they killed? And people can't, and it's like, I suppose that's some of the troubling nature of true crime, that it can be salacious and it can be a bit lurid, and as part of it, if you're engaging with it, you are part of that system.
Yes.
And that can feel a bit icky.
Like
sometimes.
Watching Love Island. You know? Like, you are a cretin. You are part of the problem. Or buying those magazines, you know, those horrible, take a break, you know, like just, what was he called? Your mate that you rammed with a trolley that time. What's his chop? Jeremy Kyle. It's like all of that, isn't it? Like, you are part of the problem, and you can't say that you're not. It is creating a circus around trauma.
Yeah. And using these traumas to create narratives. And monetized. Yeah. So, given that we're talking about that, I'll jump forward and we'll go back on ourselves to the other question. So, I'd ask you, where do you stand on key scholars' points on serial killers and celebrity status? So, what's been said around that is it's David Schmid's book, which is called Natural Born Celebrities, and on the front cover is a picture of Ramirez with his sunglasses on and looking like, you know, rock and roll twat that he thought he was. And basically the premise of his book is that there are some of these killers, some of these murderers, particularly those that come in the serial killer category, that get an almost celebrity status, in that everybody knows who they are, everyone knows the name, and I'm sorry to put her in the same box, but everybody knows Beyonce's name and everyone knows Jeffrey Dahmer's name, and that's quite troubling. And the way that they're treated in the press or in the media generally is very similar to the way that celebrities are treated, wanting to know all the little bits of their lives, what's all their background, what are they saying, what are they doing, who are they getting married to in prison, and all that kind of stuff. And he's just pointing out that, you know, we're putting these people on the same level as celebrities, and they haven't done anything good for this world. They've only done bad things. And is of course tied up into the problematic nature of true crime, in that that's where we put these people when maybe really we should never talk about them again. Maybe they should just vanish. So I don't know, what do you think about that as an idea of like celebrities and serial killers having a very similar dynamic in the media?
Yeah, it's an interesting one.
It's like fame and infamy.
Yeah,
those two things, isn't it?
Yeah, makes me think of the Columbine boys and all the copycat.
Oh God, yeah. And their fans
looking up to them and sort of following, wanting to, because they never released those tapes, did they? Because they didn't want other people to see it as a blueprint. So yeah, I guess there is a bit of emulating as well, and a bit of like idolising, which is really unhealthy.
Yeah, which becomes
there's that disrespect of the victim, and then that like profiling of those people who've done really horrible things. It's really complicated, doesn't it?
Become role models to a degree, which is very, very troubling, I think. I mean, you're right about Columbine. Like, there's still now, if you were to Google images, and I don't recommend that you do because it will make you furious. You know, there's like, I guess we'd call it like fan art of them, and like, you know, loads of kids. You know, I would use the word kids, sort of seeing them as they were the ones that, you know, fought back against stuff, and it's just like, no, they were the bullies. They were horrible to other kids. Like, they weren't excluded from everything else. They had loads of friends. One of them had a regular girlfriend, and it's like they weren't being bullied. They were the bullies, but it's kind of spoken to the kids who are feeling, you know, left out and whatnot, and they've become these like folk hero idols, and it's really weird,
troubling,
really weird. And it's like they're not someone to look up to. They're dickheads.
Yeah, but on that, I feel like his mum, you know, one of the mums, the one who's written the book, she needs a mention, doesn't she? Like, that is such a brave and brilliant and important book. It's like, what's it called?
It's called A Mother's Reckoning.
That's
and
it.
She's called Sue Claybold.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the one.
So
well done. Brought it back from the recesses.
So like, because then, which also links to my point about psychology earlier on, and also why we are fascinated, because actually in that book, you're not just reading about a crime,
Mm-hmm.
you're reading about young people's mental health.
Yeah.
And that book isn't salacious, and
No.
she's just trying to make you realise like how things can go so wrong for any one of us, and how easy that is for it to happen, and how you don't even know it's happening underneath your own roof. And it's so important. And she normalises it massively, even though what happened to them was completely abnormal.
Yeah.
Like, she's like, my child was really lost and I didn't even know
know.
Lost, and nobody knew. And it's like, to a lesser extent, that can play out in your child. And it's all about, just understanding young people's mental health is so brilliant.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a side track, but needs a mention because it's
she does need a mention.
Brilliant.
She's where she finds the strength, I don't know, but like, so I was thinking about the book then as you were talking. I think like she does go over what the boys did on that day, but it's like a page and a half, isn't it, of a novel-sized book. So you know, she does say it, she does talk about it, but she does it like very like matter of factly. Like, this happened and this happened and this happened, and it doesn't dwell on the other stuff.
I guess how can we marry our curiosity for detail and our need for understanding? Maybe there's something in our own survival where we need to understand. So how do we? And also, like, it's the first thing. If something alarming happens, say like your friend comes to you and they're like, "Oh, my whoever has died," or when I was a kid, my brother died. Your first thing is you want to know why.
Yeah,
and you know you're not supposed
what
to
happened?
ask.
Yeah.
But
How?
that gut reaction is how, because you want to keep yourself safe.
Yeah.
And you want to be reassured that your child's not going to die, your little sister.
Yeah.
Like, it's that thing of protection and control.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we honour, and how do we satiate, is that the right word?
Yeah.
That need, being careful of erring into that idolising and profiling. Because we have questions. When something horrific happens, we've all got questions, haven't we? Like, how did that happen? Why did that happen?
Yeah.
So how do you answer those questions and not elevate them up to, you know, Beyonce?
Oh, yeah.
Beyonce.
I'm sorry, Beyonce, because you're clearly listening. I do apologise. You are, of course, not a killer. But yeah, like,
well,
you can't.
as far as we know.
As far as we know. I forgot what I was going to say. So before I said, you know, maybe we should never talk about them again, but that's not productive either, is it?
No.
At all. So like that makes me think of when so just go back to Jeffrey Dahmer. He's everywhere, isn't he? God's sake, man. When he was murdered in prison. Do you know the little extra bit of story? Like, he was murdered in prison and they'd done the autopsy and whatnot, like you're supposed to do and whatever. And you know, his parents had taken his body and I don't know, was he cremated? Yeah, I think he was cremated. But they kept his brain, and I don't think they asked his mum and dad, like, it's all right if we have this brain to study.
Wow.
So Jeff, like I know him, Jeff. So J-Dog. Oh god. So J-Dog has been cremated. His brain's in a box in a lab, and the father and the mother find out, and they're like, well, the mother, she's like, well, they should study it because of the answers that the people wanted, like how and why did this happen? And his father, which is called Lionel, he was adamant that not, and it should be, you know, cremated, so the rest of, you know, that his full body can be put to rest, I suppose. But yeah, it's just like the brain was in a box in a fridge in a lab, and they eventually decided it's like, without full consent from both parents, I don't think they can sort of keep it and study it. I'm sure the laws around that are just really fucking weird. Yeah. But yeah, they eventually just cremated it on its own, just stuck the box in the thing.
Just a little brain.
Just a little brain by itself. But I think they had to do it by itself as well, because like in crematoriums, certainly like a hospital one or a prison one, I don't think they're going to be that fussy about just chucking several people in there just to, you know, save on the gas or whatever. But everyone's like, you're not putting my son in there with Jeff's brain. Oh, so it's just sat there on its own, burning.
Wow.
There's an image.
It is a great image. I'm quite enjoying it.
So I asked you what true crime you don't engage with and why, and I think my answers are the same. I don't watch stuff with kids because I'm a mum and it's too hard, which just raises other problematic things like, well, you're all right watching these people get chopped up, why are you not all right watching, this happens? So I'm aware of the differences in the stuff that I watch and the stuff that I don't. So they're the only thing with a kid that I know I've watched in recent times was the Netflix series about Madeleine McCann.
I have also watched that
as well.
I love saying something and then immediately contradicting myself.
Yeah, I don't watch stuff with that, but I have seen that one.
Why have we watched that then?
I don't know. Is it because, when did that all happen? It was like early 2000s, was it? Yeah. 2000, 2001? And we're also contradicting ourselves in saying it's an unsolved mystery and we watched that.
Oh, that's so funny.
I don't watch them, or I watch them.
I think it's that we all judged them. I think we're all just being dicks. By watching it, we're just being gossipy dicks, and we're just looking to see if we can work out if it was the parents' fault. It's
fucking them, wasn't it?
Just want to blame the parents because it's ingrained in us as a society to blame the parents.
But do you remember when people? It was the Sun of all newspapers, and probably the Mirror as well. They made posters for people to take out of the newspaper, and people had them in their cars. But yeah, I did watch that one, and it is about a kid, and it is an unsolved mystery. The things that I said that I don't do, apart from that.
Do you know what though? I'm just going to throw this one at you. Have you seen that there is now on Netflix? You know when those two girls went missing? Oh, what was her name? She's not called Madeline, is she? Maxine.
Maxine.
There's a Maxine, is it?
Yeah, I think it's just called Maxine. There's a drama,
isn't there?
There's
a new thing about that, so I don't feel inclined towards watching that because I think that feels a bit grubby.
So is the drama about Maxine? Yeah. Do you mean that, or do you mean the doc?
I mean the drama.
Yeah, I think I started it like half an episode, and I didn't feel inspired to carry it on.
Yeah,
and I don't remember why. Maybe I was just not going into it.
And this is that thing where I'm like, just that one feels a bit grubby, but I can't really explain why that's grubby and something else isn't.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I don't watch is something where I know the victims or their families don't want it to happen. I get really annoyed at that. So, again, not necessarily true crime, but drama of Pamela Anderson and Tommy Lee.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and how much she did not want that to happen.
Yeah.
Like, I am fuming with anyone who watched that because it was... Like, how dare you?
Yeah.
That woman went through so much.
So much. That you see in her own documentary.
So much. Yes, exactly. And then... they just made this thing, even though she begged them not to. Mm-hmm. And that other thing as well with the, is it the Ripper one? There's a new Ripper, as in Yorkshire Ripper.
Yeah.
Because though the victims' families asked them not to make that.
The ITV drama?
Yeah, there was
a lot of interesting
about that, so I didn't watch that.
Well, I did watch that, and I had to watch it over a period of a couple of weeks because it was so bleak. Because it was I think it was beautifully done, and it gives the victims, I thought, really good time and space to explore them. Yeah. And we barely see fucking bush-haired Sutcliffe with his big square Lego hair. Barely see him at all. He's in it for I'd say just a handful of minutes. The poor sod actor who got to play Sutcliffe. But it's all about the women. It's all about them and their families. So I thought it was really good, but I found it very difficult to watch because it feels very close to home.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just so upsetting, just so bleak. So I could watch one episode a night and I had to turn it off and have a proper palate cleanser with an episode of fucking Friends or something to just
Sex in the City.
Yeah, Sex in the City to just be oh God, I can't stop thinking about that. And but I thought it was beautifully made.
Yeah, right.
But yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think it's an interesting time that as well, isn't it? Just in that there was the same thing in America too, was it, with the Dahmer thing? Where all the women were just terrified, and it was their responsibility to stay at home and their responsibility to look, as bloody usual, to make sure you don't get raped and murdered. Mm-hmm. It's your responsibility, and just living through that terrifying decade or whatever it was.
Yeah, I mean, the 70s were wild. In
Good
the
time
UK.
for serial killers.
Oh yeah, it was a fucking heyday for serial
wild.
killers. There's loads of theories as to why. Some of them are more batshit than others. What was I going to say then? Was it about Jeff again? J-Dog.
J-Dog.
That's what I'll call the title of this.
J-Dog.
J-Dog and Beyonce.
J-Dog and Beyonce.
Yes. Hey, let's let's move on to another question. All right, so a big focus of this project is me looking at the same cases told in different media.
Yeah.
So the last 2 episodes, I started with Conversations with the Killer, Ted Bundy tapes in episode 2. Then in episode 3, I looked at the Ted Bundy story, but told from My Favourite Murder. So it's 2 female hosts, and the Falling for a Killer, directed by Trish Wood and told by women. And then I looked at Bailey Sarian's episode of Murder, Mystery and Makeup on YouTube, where she tells the stories and puts her makeup on at the same time. And she's adorable. Absolutely adorable. So one of the things I'm looking at is looking at how different cases and different stories spread across media. How does it change? Can we use like frameworks of understanding adaptation to understand these things? Because you got the same story, but it's different from, say, a really sort of po-faced, slick HBO documentary compared to, say, how Kiri and Rachel might talk about it on All Killer No Filler. We're in 2 very different worlds, despite telling the same story. So do you watch or listen to or read about the same cases over and over again, or are you like, well, let's say I know Dahmer's story now, I don't need to hear that again, or not? Like, where do you stand on that?
Yeah, I wouldn't say necessarily often seek it out.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's not often that something would pique my interest so much that I would sort of deep dive on it, sort of thing. I think the most recent one I've done, I sort of like listened to so much grim true crime that I started to worry about where it was being stored in my brain, because I wasn't scared, mostly not scared, and I was like, where is this going? You know, like when you take too much acid or like DMT or something, and you're like, that's going to fucking come back and bite me on the ass one day.
That's a panic attack in 10 years' time,
yes,
isn't it?
Where is it? Where's it gone? Please don't come back. I'm like that with like all this grim shit I've listened to. And so I was like, at some point I was like, I'm gonna have to just tone this down a bit. I was listening to it all the time, you know, like not quite as a bedtime podcast. I don't think I quite got that far. I know some people do, but like, no, probably not in bed.
Yeah, that blows my mind.
My own.
I listen because people say about cult leader quite a lot, don't they? Because Spencer's got a very soothing voice. But you see people on the socials like, oh, you know, I always listen to you when I go to bed, and he said himself like, why?
Are you doing? I mean, I'm too anxious at the best of times, and so is he, God bless him, from what he says. Absolutely not. So yeah, I've like, to sort of satisfy that interest about human nature as well, but without gore, so much grimness, I've like got into cult stuff, and I love a good like fraud type scammer, catfish, MLM. I love an LM. Oh,
I love an MLM type. I love an MLM story.
Oh my God, did you see that short from Sarah Pascoe the other day?
Yeah.
She was saying ADHD is a pyramid scheme. Because when you've got it, you have to tell 7 more.
Oh, you have to recruit 7 more.
Oh God, I loved that.
Yeah, she's brilliant.
She is brilliant. She deserves a mention. I think the most recent thing I can think of where I was like, wow, that was batshit. And then I did it again. Was the True Flames one.
Twin Flames.
Twin Flames.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Because like, that's mental.
They're in their compound now, aren't they?
Oh.
I know.
Rubbing my hands with glee.
It's an audio medium, but she's rubbing her hands with glee.
You could hear that sound of like sticks trying to make a fire. Oh my God, yeah, we need an update on that.
We do need an update on that.
But yeah, I did. That's one. So I did the Netflix one, and then I watched the Amazon one, and I liked that because it's a bit deeper into who they are.
Yeah, I prefer the Amazon one
and stuff. And then true crime, I have listened. I've done a few where I've done the podcast and then done a program. So the Anna, what's the chops, that fraudy one, becoming Anna or whatever.
Yeah, very succinct.
She was great. I loved that. Like, what an absolute blagger, like legend. And then what was the other one? Oh my God, is it Mummy Dearest?
Mummy Dead and Dearest.
Mummy Dead and Dearest, about the zombie woman. You know who I mean?
Oh no!
Am I saying the wrong thing?
Yeah, I've said the wrong thing and put it in your head. Mummy Dead and Dearest is about Gypsy Rose.
Oh yeah, love a bit of that as well. Love a bit of that one. Because she's now on the bloody YouTubes.
Well, she's not only on the bloody YouTubes, but she was married to someone, side note, she was married to someone in jail. So when she got out, only in January,
Yes.
I believe, she got out, married to this fella. It is now, on the date of recording, the 28th of July, so however many months ago that is. She's since divorced, met someone else, and she's knocked up. And it's like, slow it down.
Jeez Louise.
Easy, tiger.
She's a vulnerable person.
She really is. It's like, you need time
and
to
talk
breathe.
about salacious and like monetizing on someone's like, vulnerability. Like the fact that they've given her own channel and just sort of like not just looking after her and not wrapping her in cotton wool, that's patronising. But like to come out of having had such a mad upbringing, then prison, just let her settle in real
just
life.
settle
How
down.
dare you use her for your own gain? I just think that is disgusting.
Yeah, because she jumped on social medias and stuff, didn't she, straight away?
Yeah.
So, obviously, immediately she's going to get millions and millions of followers.
Kardashians, they've had her on stuff as well.
Have they?
Scumbags.
We could do a whole episode on how much I don't like the Kardashians. Maybe that'll be next series.
So the one I meant, though, is Laurie Ballantyne. That's
there
the
we
name.
go. Right.
With the zombie kids. So I did like a podcast of that, and then there was a documentary that I watched as well.
Right. Okay, so you do seek something out when you're like, oh, I need some more information.
Yeah,
There's got to be some more there.
If you're already interested and then something new comes out, because I heard the podcast and then the programme came out and I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's sometimes you don't get something different out of it and then you're like, that was a bit of a waste of my time. But I do like it if they delve a bit deeper or take a different perspective.
Yeah, different approach.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's why the Falling for a Killer documentary by Trish Wood is so good, because it doesn't talk about him, Bundy fucking Billy bullshitter, doesn't talk about him very much. It just talks about all the women and their lives and the survivors talk, or the women who worked on the case, lawyers, detectives or whatever, and of course Liz Kendall and her daughter Molly, who were Ted's family. And it's all from them, and it's very, again, beautifully made, and it's about grief rather than about murder, which I think is particularly interesting. It's about grief and trauma and how you deal with it, or for families that have lost their daughters, how you don't fucking deal with it. It's just always there. It's always there. Yeah.
Not bad thinking about that, does it?
But I definitely watch and listen to and read about the same cases over and over again. I just don't know. And so the answer to that question I put is, do you watch, listen to, read about the same cases over and over again, and why, and what do they offer? I think you've kind of answered it with, sometimes you get more details, different perspective, a little bit deeper, or maybe sometimes just a bit of time helps. So like you mentioned cults before, there was a book written, and I can't remember its name, and I can't remember who it's by, of course. Some bloke wrote a book about Jonestown, the massacre at Jonestown.
Yeah.
Because we'll call it a massacre, it was murder. It's not, say it like it is. But that book came out like 2 years later, and it's interesting. But then there's a book that came out, 20 years later. I think it's called Road to Jonestown, which just has the benefit of the years and the thinking and considering it a bit better. So the immediate story, people do rush to get books out of big crimes and big things because it'll sell in that moment. But it is worth, I think, giving it a bit of space to think about and to try and understand some stuff. But then I guess you can only understand the stuff if it's talked about. So then it's back round to, yes, it does feel problematic and troublesome and a bit grubby sometimes, but there is some value in it, and I think there is some cultural value to it, particularly when you have documentaries like Trish Wood's one, where it's like, well, can we stop hearing from the men who have positioned themselves as heroes for catching Bundy, despite letting him escape twice, and they're like, I did this and I did that, and I'm, such a good cop, and it's like, are you? Were you? Or are you making Bundy into such a super monster that, you're now this incredible hero for catching him? It's like, well, and what about the lives he destroyed? Rather than you getting promoted, maybe, we should talk about that. Maybe we should consider that. Which leads us nicely then into the next question, which is, what do you think has changed with regards to true crime or, stuff covering cults or whatever? What do you think's changed, if anything? You might not think it's changed in the last few years? What's happened, do you think?
I think there is more understanding that we need to talk about and honour victims.
Yes.
And I think that, you know, whilst patriarchy is still going well,
Still going well for
doing
them.
all right for itself. Fucking twats. I think there is an understanding of, oh God, so many things, and there's still so much to do in terms of equality, diversity, and inclusion. But I think that there's inroads being made, and so we're now hearing about, you know, black victims, women, you know, people have names, whereas obviously, you know, like in the 80s, talking about those cases, you know, or the 90s, it's all like, oh, the pretty little white kid goes missing, and there's a national outcry.
Yeah. Whereas
now it's like, you know, actually there's a lot more consideration for those other crimes of people of colour, or honouring the victims and their stories, I think, is progress in the right direction. And I also think that something that has evolved, which is really positive, and I think this links to reality TV as well, and also American culture, and they're sort of like, I don't know, like obviously American culture is so problematic in loads of ways, but there are ways in which they've got a lot better use of therapeutic language, and the way they communicate about their emotions is so much more advanced than how we do, and they give that to us through their media, and it's really brilliant. And I think that exploring things like this does give us language around things like coercive control, narcissism, sociopathology, you know, easy for you to say, which hopefully arms and protects us as well. So, you know, now you and me raising children, trying to protect them against, arm them, because, you know, we might have learnt the hard way, but actually now we've got better language and more experience of showing them what red flags are. You know, we didn't even, no one told, I don't know what red flag
even
was,
that term,
20
red flags.
years ago.
Yeah, sure.
And so being able to so the fact that young people have those conversations together, I mean, I don't want to be all rosy tinted spectacles, like nothing's ever going to bad happen, you know, nothing's ever going to go wrong for them, but just the fact that they have this language to describe abuse and people who want to, you know, use power or dominance over them, and what that looks like. That's a really amazing learning that's coming from all of this, I think. So even though again, it links back to that, why do we tell these stories? I think there is a bit of us that's like, we want to be reassured, it's not going to happen to us, we're afraid, we want to control it, but also we want to learn, and we want to be safe, and I think that is probably quite a substantial positive, actually. And again, the Love Island example, horrendous, but I know you don't like it, but you know that I have watched it. I haven't this time recently, but I have watched a couple of seasons of it, or whatever it's, you know, that runs of it, and it blew me away. First watched it, I was like, God, you know, just all the language, the way that people were talking about it outside of the villa, you know, and spotting those sorts of abuses and controls and the insidious stuff. But, you know, and so suddenly we've got language to describe them, or Married at First Sight or whatever. You know, people are like, oh my God, that's coercive control. And it's just bringing these things that women have lived with, not just women, obviously, but mostly. You know, that, I mean, true crime, again, you know, we can't not talk about the fact that it is a woman, we are the victims, and that is also what probably fascinates us too, because it is our story. You know, we've all been harmed. I don't know a single woman who hasn't been harmed in some way, you know. By men, let's be honest. And so I think that's also where that fascination comes from, because it's our story. It's my story, it's your story. It's like, this is the stuff that scares the shit out of us when we walk home. This is the stuff that means that when I get off the tram, I message you, and when I get home, I ring you.
Let me know when you get home. I don't say that to my male friends.
Never, ever.
No.
Never said that.
No.
Like, I've got that app on my phone, like Parachute, by the way, get it, it's great. But like, if anything happened to me, you're the person it sends the footage to, because I know that you will fucking track that bastard down. Like, out of everyone, you'll be like sleuthing it for clues. But yeah, it's I've gone totally off the original question about
What's changed?
What's changed? No, I haven't. I was on it.
You were on it. You were on it.
Language, positives around language. I think it's given us things as well. I think it's given us knowledge and it's given us information that's really useful. And I do think that whilst we talked about salaciousness at the start and idolising and, you know, celebrityifying all these people, actually they are becoming a smaller part of the cog for lots of these storytellers. Not everyone. There's still people who don't get it. But, you know, you mentioned All Killer before. Like, their whole thing is about taking the piss out of the killers, really.
Roasting them. Bringing them down.
Yeah, and really talking about the victims, naming them, making sure they've got an identity and so on. And, I think that's really important and a really brilliant change.
Yeah, I would agree. So, yes, thinking back to those early 90s, you know, shows that I used to catch, because we had satellite TV. It was all about the killer, and the bodies of these women were just used as sites of information to learn more about the male killer. And it's like, well, what about her? Who was she? What did she want? What did she not want? She didn't want to die, but, you know, what did she...
Fucking body back.
Yeah. What was her life like? And I think, it's giving those people back some kind of control or autonomy in their actual existence beyond what somebody did to them.
Yeah. That honour.
Yeah. Who said it? Who said it? Was it? I think it was one of the lasses from My Favourite Murder. And I think maybe she was in an interview, you know, about it, and she said something like, you know, they're more than a chalk outline. And I thought that was sort of, it's like, that's it right there.
That's a good one.
They're more than that, and we need to recognise those things, and that, you know, that there's families that also shouldn't feel exploited.
Yes. By
this as well. Yeah. So what else do I think has changed? There's more types of true crime, but there's more types of media. So there was no true crime podcast 20 years ago, because there was no podcasts 20 years ago, and that's opened it up to, because there's such low barriers to entry to do a podcast. I mean, look at me. you don't even need this mic here. Like, you could do it on your iPhone. Like, you don't actually need to go and buy this stuff. It just means that everybody now has the ability to have their voice heard, and their voice could be a white man telling the story, but the voice could also be a woman of colour telling a story and it being heard, whereas previously it wasn't. So if you look at all the legacy media stuff, so HBO and things like that, and, you know, Netflix, they're owned by white men, so it's going to have an impact on what stories get told, and probably more importantly, what stories don't get told. And podcasting, and, you know, people having true crime channels on YouTube, again, very low barrier to entry. You just need a computer and an internet connection, and then boom, you know, you can put your story out there. And I think that's particularly valuable. And the thing that I'm trying to, hopefully that I'll get to the bottom of a bit more, is I'm wondering if the shift in the approaches that legacy media makes, so the Trish Wood documentary, for instance, on Amazon Prime, I'm wondering if the fact that the bigger legacy media have started to change their tune a little bit in response to the deluge of podcasts and YouTube that is clearly doing very well, clearly has a big audience. And I wonder if there's a response there, because they're seeing it being done in different ways, and that maybe, oh right, we can do it differently, or we should do it differently, or if we do it differently, we will also make money off it, because, you know, it's a business at the end of the day. But I'm wondering if there is a direct response going on, and if it is, I think that's quite interesting, that grassroots media, self-startup media, just participatory media that anyone can do with an iPhone or any phone, that they've had to respond to it, whereas usually they've been dominant and they've not had to. They can do whatever they like. So I think that's quite interesting and useful and exciting as well, that, you know, somebody sat on their laptop in their bedroom, that collectively that has made a change for the better, I think.
Yeah. I do like that too, when somebody is quite close to a case and then they tell their story. There was a good podcast that I listened to about First Nations women, and I'd love to remember what it's called because it's so brilliant. I think the second season's maybe about St Michael's Children's Home, might be called something like that. But she talked about why there were so many First Nations Indigenous women going missing and then also realise that was actually linked to all the generational trauma.
Yeah.
You know, from like being displaced and like the stolen generations of children that were put in all these kids' homes, and it's absolutely brilliant. But you know, these are these stories when it's just so important for us to hear them, and they wouldn't have got a look in before. People didn't bloody care. Like women of colour disappearing, or like Indigenous women, it's like, who cares about them?
Well, it's that notion of the less dead, isn't it? That, you know, sex workers and women of colour and First Nation women are sort of in this sort of the less dead. Like people care. Like that
perfect victim thing, that little white blonde child, like she's perfect. The shock and horror that she could get stolen.
Yeah, it sells. Whereas, you know, sex workers being murdered.
They've brought it on themselves.
Yeah,
anyway.
It's all their fault. They shouldn't be doing it in the first place. And you're just like, oh, fuck off.
Yeah. So I think it's good that discourse in general is becoming more progressive and inclusive, and like honouring lives, not just specific lives,
and not just that one moment where their life isn't just. These lives are not being reduced anymore to that moment where somebody, you know, felt they had the authority to take it away.
Yeah. So
that's interesting. Well, we're out of questions. We've said everything. We made it. Is there anything else?
You weren't that cringe. You were cringe at the beginning, and then you've like styled it out after that. After you got it out.
Well, I'm going to cringe again when I have to close it. So.
And then edit it. And listen to your own voice.
I'm over listening to my own voice. Actually, I'm doing all right with that now. I don't really mind.
Good. It does take just.
The first few listens back, just like, oh god. Anything else to add? I don't think I've got anything else to add. I think I'm done. No? All right, well, we're going to...
I'll tell you what I would add. One thing. Just keep the cult stories coming. Cult leaders, future cult leaders out there, just keep fucking coming, because I love that.
Because I love that.
I absolutely love it. Just don't take my daughter.
Yeah.
But keep them coming, they're great.
Yeah, I've watched everything there is to watch on cults now, and I need another one.
Exactly. Love Has Won, that was the most recent one.
Love Has Won, yeah, we watched that one. Wow.
So good.
She went actually blue.
Blue.
She looked... Oh, God.
Unbelievable.
It was wild.
Batshit. So
Absolutely
batshit.
Wild. She's just knocking back shots of colloidal silver.
Yeah.
They were describing that she'd gone a bluey colour, and it was like, well, it could only be a little bit blue, but she looks like she's been painted with
silver,
with
like
a can of
blue,
spray paint.
Shiny.
You know, like car paint or whatever. Wild. Anyway, watch Love Has Won.
Yeah.
Watch
That's it.
Final thoughts.
Keep coming. But don't kill kids, but keep the cults coming.
Yeah, if you would, because I need something to watch of an evening.
Yes.
Right, okay, we're going to go and drink some beers.
And a penis-shaped limoncello. It's in the freezer.
It's in the freezer. Oh yeah, we should go and drink that before it freezes, actually. Excellent. Right, well, thanks everyone for listening. As usual, or as I've already said, and as I will keep saying, you can follow the project over on Instagram at murdermedia81 and on Facebook, and my email is murdermedia81@gmail.com. And next week, I don't actually know what's happening. I might have another guest, or it might be me on my own again, feeling awkward as hell. So thanks for listening, and hopefully you can join me again next week. Goodbye.